Hello, how are you? I hope you're good. So, today, as you will know from the title, I am here to talk about all the crappiest books that I read in 2018. Now, if you feel very strongly about some of your favorites and do not really take well to criticism of those, maybe this is not the best video for you, but you know, none of us read the same book ever because we're all different and we all like different things. And I feel like I really don't need to put a disclaimer here because all of you are very mature and very much understand the fact that different people like different things. But without further ado, these are the shit books I read in 2018. So I have two books that I didn't even rate with any stars because I didn't know how to rate them. Like, I was just lost. I have two books that I rated 1 star, which is very rare for me, thankfully, actually, very rare for me. And then I have 7 books of 2 stars. And 2 stars is the last one that I would consider this like a fairly bad book. And 3 stars is usually like okay or actually good, you know? So I have 11 books for you guys, and without further ado, I'm just gonna get into it. I'm actually gonna start with the books that I did not know how to rate, and then I'll move to 2 stars and then to 1 star. So we'll leave the hottest steaming tea for last. I'm just joking, there's literally no tea. The 2 books that I didn't even rate anything. First one is a very sad one because I had very high, well, not very high hopes for it, but it's from my favorite author, so obviously, you know, you would assume you would like it. But I knew that this is an odd cookie and I knew it's definitely not for everyone. I just assumed that I will be one of those people that it is for. Boy, I was wrong. This one was The Slow Regards of Silent Things. Now, I feel like in my gut, I knew that this is not gonna be for me because I read The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear, and I'm still waiting for the third one, but let's not talk about that.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Books back to back, absolutely in love with it, favorite series of all time. And this is a novella following Ari from this series. And Ari is a very odd child that lives in the university grounds. So this one was very intriguing to me because in the books I actually adore Ari. In this was very hard to read, and first of all, as I was expecting, nothing happens in this, but it wasn't because of that I didn't enjoy it. And I think it's actually an important read, but it read so oddly because we are treating inanimate objects as animate. Again, I like that. I think it's very accurate for her situation. She's very socially excluded and she bonds with inanimate objects. However, just the writing of this was not for, it grinded on me so much. Like, it just grinded on me so much. And he does say that this is not gonna be for everyone. So I definitely don't hold it against him. This is an odd little story. It was a pain for me to read because I was not invested, which I found very odd. So I didn't know how to rate it, but I definitely did not have a good relationship with it. So overall, I didn't rate it anything because I was so confused. I just didn't know what to do with it in my mind or on Goodreads. Now the next one is entirely my own fault. I should not have gotten this book because I knew what it was. I don't know what I was expecting. No, I understand what it is because at some point, I think on a wrap-up, someone was like, what were you expecting? It's exactly what it says it is. And I don't disagree at all. Like, it's my own fault that I went and read it. But why I think it's a crappy book is because I think it shouldn't exist in print. Obviously, who am I to decide that? But just my opinion. And that is the Fantastic Beasts screenplay. Obviously, it's a screenplay. I tried reading this and I did read it during the news readathon and it's exactly what it says it is, and I just don't know why this had to be printed when obviously there's a movie that adds to the story with visuals and audio and whatnot, because this is a screenplay. And fair play, I did know what I was going into, so it is entirely my own fault. I take full responsibility for not enjoying it because I feel like I've already seen it. Now at first I was like, okay, fair go, because sometimes I know they publish these things and then all of the royalties are sent to Lumos and Comic Relief charities, which I love and I want to support, but nowhere in this one does it say that, not at least not in my copy. And because I looked, and I know my Fantastic Beasts like illustrated edition, which is amazing by the way, the royalties are there as well. I'm just like 100% yes. And if that was the case with this one, for a collector, for a person who's very invested in the universe, even if it is not Harry Potter's Fantastic Beasts, I would definitely justify that. But because it's not, and it's not like they're really struggling for income with this. It just makes me sort of angry. I didn't know how to rate it again, because what do I rate it on, you know? So it's not like, oh my god, I don't know. I will not be buying the second one. The fact that I read it is entirely my own fault. The fact that it exists, I'm very confused over. Moving on to the books that I rated 2 stars. First one, we have a Slaughterhouse-Five. This was one of our Book in a Jar book club reads. It was under the category of banned books, I believe. Now, Slaughterhouse-Five, I struggled my way through it. I was very excited because I knew this is gonna be war themed, and I actually do most of the time enjoy these kind of things. However, this was so over the top with the symbolism. It's not like I didn't get the hidden meaning and the raw emotion, but the writing style, again, grinded on me so much. I appreciate the thought behind it, but the formatting of this and the writing style alone was just something that completely took me out of it. I was struggling with this so hard. Because of the theme, I think that's how it got 2 stars, but and the importance and, you know, what it represents, I appreciate that. And there were some good bits that I did enjoy, there were some quotes that I enjoyed, but overall, oh my god, would never read this again. And I understand this is not necessarily a read for your like pure enjoyment, you know, this is not an entertaining read. It would just simply be good if it wasn't painful to, you know, where you just sort of want to poke your eyes out and you would rather clean than read this, because that was the situation when I was doing that. Next one was an audiobook, and it was a sequel to a book that I did really enjoy in 2017, and that was Destiny of Dragons. The first book was Lightning Struck Hard by T.G. Klune, same as the second one, same author obviously, and this is a series of something that I feel should have been a standalone. I think I gave the first one 5 stars. It was hilarious. It's very immature sense of humor that I 100% have, and it's about basically everyone in that story is gay, and there's a talking unicorn and this very swoony romance and a struggling wizard apprentice, and they all get into a lot of trouble with ridiculous bad guys, and it's very much for as a joke, but it also has like underlying insecurity themes, and I think it did have sort of like a moral of a story as well, so it wasn't like all shits and giggles, but it sort of was, you know. It was very entertaining, and the audiobook was great for the first one. Then the second one came out and I was very excited. I started listening to it and it was just a bit more of the same. So I feel like it's entertaining in small doses, but I just felt like there was no need for the second one to exist. It was trying to be just as funny, I feel. I know the author did mention somewhere that it was not supposed to be as funny and it was supposed to be more serious. I listened to a fair bit and then I DNF'd, so I still rated it. I basically do it if it's like close to 50%, then I still rate it. But it was just not for me. I felt like the joke was over. I was over it, and I'm very happy to have that first one as a standalone and move on from the series. Then we have The Miniaturist. This is by Jessie Burton, and my main problem with this one was that I felt deceived by it because this was very openly advertised as magical realism and advertised loudly and clearly because it got a lot of people to read it. It was supposed to be about this dollhouse and this unexplained, creepy, sort of uneasy magic of things happening in the dollhouse and correlating with the real life events or influencing it somehow. It was very misleading. I don't want to say a lot of things, but basically there was no magic in this whatsoever. It was a historical fiction, which for some people might be absolutely amazing. It was not for me at all. I don't know if it's a historical fiction thing because I don't really have a lot of books to compare it with. It wasn't super painful to read, but overall it just dragged out, and it was just, I think it was the anticipation building in me to see this magical realism happen, and when it just doesn't happen because it's not magical realism, you build something up and then you don't get it, you feel very blue balls. So this is how I felt, and it really stopped me from enjoying it. Plus there are some animals that get hurt in here, and I was destroyed by that and was not prepared, but that's not why it's 2 stars. This is set in 1686 in Amsterdam, and this is about a girl who gets married off to a guy, and the marriage doesn't really go that well, and she has all of the struggles with the with the sister of a man in the house really not releasing control over the household and them not taking her seriously because she's only 17 years old, and just her settling in there and getting to know people. But over 400 pages, and why? I don't know. Another 2-star read was Empress of a Thousand Skies. This one is a sci-fi, and it's kind of rare for me to not like a sci-fi that much. It wasn't like terrible. As I said, it was 2 stars. I think it was maybe like a bit of a higher 2 stars. I think the main problem to me with this one was how painfully predictable it was, and the main like reveal was not a reveal at all, because you basically know that information from the very beginning. So I felt like this was one of the books that we knew more information than the main character did, so the intrigue wasn't really there because our character is trying to discover that information whilst we all already know it. It wasn't like explicit until the reveal, but I keep saying reveal because it's not, it really isn't. And I think unfortunately none of the other categories brought it anywhere closer to like 3 or 4 stars. This is about a princess who loses her family when she's very young, and there's a family friend that overtakes the ruling until she becomes 16, and she is taken to this other colony to live there until that. But she is turning 16, and while she is being sent back to the capital to take over, but while she does that, there is an assassination attempt in her ship, and she is presumed dead, and she goes on to basically revealing what is happening, who's hunting her, and what actually happened to her family, and if that is all connected. I don't think I will be reading the second one. It might be out at this point, as far as I know. It just didn't have enough going on. It sounds like it could be really fun, and I think it had potential to be very fun, but it wasn't. Then we have God Blind. I don't even know how to describe this. This is the most accurate description that I used before for it, I think. Is very much Game of Thrones wannabe. This like dark medieval, a shit ton of POVs, like point of views. There's maybe like 20 characters and it goes back and forth, so you never get attached to any of them. There was one plot line that I cared a little bit about, and I just wish the whole book was from that point of view, and there was maybe 2 characters that I also liked, so that's why it got 2 stars rather than like 1. The writing style wasn't actually horrible, but the jumping back and forth and I feel like it was very, very try hard. I think there are a lot of the scenes, even this is supposed to be a grim dark series, but I felt like some of the grim parts were very, very forced and using words and descriptions that didn't even make sense, but were just used for like a shock value, and I didn't appreciate being tricked, because I don't like when they think that the readers are dumb, you know? It was just not for me. It might be for someone else, and that is just doesn't compare. Game of Thrones is better, so I feel like if you wanted to invest into something, I feel like that would be better. However, this is easier to read. That being said, again, until like you go through a circle of the characters once or twice, you will not know what is happening because it's just simply too much. So I feel like if this was simplified or ran through a couple more edits, it could have been a good book. It was just get rid of some of the stuff, but it wasn't, and for me it was a miss, and I DNF'd it, I think at like around 50%, so I did read quite a bit because this is a long one. I just didn't care enough to continue, unfortunately. Next I have 2 comic books that were actually a bit of a miss for me. Both of them I had very high expectations for as well, so it hurts a little bit. First one is Low, and this one has such beautiful art style. It's such a shame that it just didn't feel good for me, but it has very beautiful, stunning art style, as you can tell from the cover as well. But this is all about a world that's underwater, and they are trying to fight these other forces that are just evil for the sake of evil, really. There were a lot of explicit content with like nudity, which I don't mind at all, but it was, again, for the sake of it. It was just like some sort of weird fan servicing, and I just didn't care for it that much, and I didn't really care for the characters that much either. Some really annoyed me. Like, some I liked the vulnerabilities of and the arcs of, like the son of the family that we're basically following this family. Now, the Wicked and the Divine from, what's it actually called? The Faust Act. I had such high hopes for this one, and I'm so disappointed I didn't like it. Again, this one has a very beautiful art style as well, like so, like, look at that. But more than that, it had such a promising story. This is about gods that are reborn into teenage bodies every 17 years. I don't remember now why. I don't think we know why, but the actual main character that is not a god that we follow, that she meets the gods, is so annoying, and I just couldn't stand her at all. I didn't understand, like, she's just so bland, so uninteresting. And the main reason why I didn't like this, because I felt like this was such an amazing idea and it was completely wasted. Unfortunately, I just didn't connect with the story. I didn't care. I didn't understand why there was like no plot, but I really just like the idea, so I will not continue buying these. But I was trying to find them in the library and I couldn't. But at some point, if I find it somewhere that I don't have to pay for it, you know, I can borrow from a different library or something like that, I don't know, I might continue. However, I also did not continue with this because I was still willing to give it a chance, because I really wanted this to work for me. But a lot of you guys said that it just goes downhill from the first volume, so I'm just sort of like, okay, maybe not then. And so that was the last one that received 2 stars, and now into 2 ones that I actually rated 1. So first one, I feel like a lot of people absolutely loved, and so is the other one actually, but this one annoyed me so much. I actually have a whole rant on Goodreads as well. It's always linked down below as well, my Goodreads and like Instagram and whatnot. But that one was Leia on the Offbeat. I really liked Simon versus the Homo sapien agenda, but I didn't really like her character that much in that book, so I didn't have like the highest of expectations, but I thought I will enjoy it, especially since this is supposed to be from a character that is plus size, so she's struggling with her weight. Well, actually it's supposed to be that she wasn't struggling with her weight. It was sort of like, you know, embracing the whole thing, but it really wasn't. It was such an angsty, unfair treatment of everyone in the book by her, and I do not justify it by the fact that someone's not happy because they're with their body because they were shaming others that were different. And isn't the moral of the story that it shouldn't be that way? And someone who has struggled with her weight for the entirety of her life, I really thought I might maybe relate to her in some way, but I really didn't. All it did was make me continuously angry. She was so absolutely rude and ungrateful to both her friends and her. The main character was always expecting people to go after her and treat her when she was not doing the same to anyone else and not being there for them either. Now, I am all for human vulnerability and making shitty decisions that you learn from, but there was no learning curve. Everything was resolved by finding love, and if I hate something more than that, then I'm not aware of it yet. The whole thing was... That's just my opinion though. I know a lot of people do love this book for some reason. It was just a very, very, very big miss for me. I basically rage read this whole thing until the very last page because I just wanted to know if there is gonna be some sort of like resolution for all of this cruel things she's done to others. She is herself, I think, bisexual or lesbian, but she was just basically denying someone coming out in the way that they wanted, which I just thought was never addressed either. Anyway, if I could rate it a 0 star on Goodreads, I probably would, because I just honestly don't find anything positive about it to say. So that's that. Then we have The Last Namzara, which I just simply did not care for. I didn't care about any of the characters. Characters were also annoying, very, very simple, not developed in my opinion. This is a story that was supposed to be about like this girl learning to love dragons basically, and the only things that I did care for were the dragons, but we didn't have them enough for me to be very invested. The whole plot I thought was very predictable. I liked the stories, I liked some elements of it, but overall I just couldn't care about it, and I was happy when it ended, and I don't think it's a good sign. So I couldn't give it more than 1 star, but I did enjoy it way more because I was reading it with a lot of you guys for Book in a Jar, so I got to speak with a lot of people about it, which was definitely nicer, and I think I probably would have not finished this if not for that. I think it's like a combined thing. I also really didn't like the writing style, it just was not for me. So this one was a miss as well. And that is everything. Those are all of the crappiest of the books that I personally read in 2018. Let me know what was your biggest disappointment. Some of them I really wanted to love, some of them I'm like okay with not liking and not continuing, like this one. I'm alright with that. Obviously, every time I pick up a good book, I hope that I like it, because why would I want to read it if I know that I won't? But every book cannot be a winner, and if it were, that it would be pretty odd. But I thought I will make this video because I think it's important to talk about things that you do not recommend as much as the other things that you do recommend. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Didn't take it to heart if it was a book that you really enjoyed, but I didn't, because obviously my enjoyment has no effect on your enjoyment, and it shouldn't have any effect. So on a more positive note, I should have uploaded my book awards of 2018 as well. So if you like this video and you want to actually have recommendations of books that I did really love, I will suggest that video somewhere here, and I'll link it down below as well for you to watch. But that is everything. Please chat to me down in the comments, letting me know the most disappointing book that you read and would not recommend to anyone. Hope you guys enjoyed your time watching this. Stay awesome, stay kind, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!